So we're going to get these three pieces right here actually ready to screw into this, and we're going to do that by using our thread sealant. And this stuff is pretty messy to work with, so I put gloves on. Sometimes it's actually easy to work without gloves with this stuff because it does start getting all over the place, but I try to keep clean about it, but it ends up getting on everything. So I just kind of go ahead, spread this stuff evenly around the threads, not a crazy amount. Just make sure you cover all the threads here. You really just want to make sure you get it into every crevice in there, because that's really where it's going to be doing its job. So once you have that, you can actually go ahead and take off any extra. You really don't need a ton of this stuff on there, or it'll end up just making a mess. Then we will take our tape, rip off some of the end of that, get that gunked up stuff off, and then we'll thread this, wrap this around the threads. Like I said, just a thin layer. Once, when I say once around, that means just covering the threads once. So you might have to go around twice to be able to get the depth of the threads, but we're not going around this thing multiple times. We're just trying to put a thin layer of this tape on there. Make sure that lays on there real nice. And then, and I always keep a paper towel right by, because it will just keep building up on your gloves and your hands here. So then we come back. The easiest way to do this, if you keep clumping up your brushes, sometimes you do just gotta, this is why I wear the gloves, I just put a little bit more on, tiny bit, just to really cover up the tape. And you can pretty much do this if you buy, I used to buy these in tubes like this, and I was squeezing them out and having to use my hands all the time, and it just got really dirty. So I was able to find these with the brush, and it makes it a little easier. So you could do that. I used to, like I said, just put it on there, and then I would go around my fingers like this and spread it around, but it just keeps dirtying up your hands or your gloves. So that's pretty much it. And if you think you need to add just a, I mean, you could, it kind of comes with a little bit of experience, but really the point is not putting way more than you need on there. You know, the combination of the sealant and the tape is going to do an excellent job. So I like to just kind of make sure it's pretty goopy and wet, but not big chunks left over. So at that point, this is ready to go. So the stuff that I am using, and I really like this stuff. I've used a couple different kinds, but this is the pipe thread sealant that I'm using. So it's Rector Seal number 5. So it's slow dry, soft set. So basically what that means is it takes a while to dry. It's not going to set up on you, but it also only dries to a soft set. So it's not going to dry completely hard. It's not going to harden up on you. But what that means is that you got a bunch of time to work with it. So if you're going to put a bunch of these parts together ahead of time, you don't want to put them all together and then let them sit around for a day or too many hours. But you could go ahead and get a bunch of these parts ready, which is normally what I do. Maybe 5-6 pieces together, and then I start assembling things. But it will start to set up on you, but that takes quite a bit of time. But basically what that is after the next day when you come back, this stuff, it's not liquid anymore, and it really makes that good bond. And what's really nice is that the fact that it does set up is make sure that you're kind of curing that seal in there. So one thing you want to do is, if once it's kind of cured up, you really don't want to spin these threads backwards to adjust the position or something, because you might crack that bond that it's made, and then allow room for a leak. So this stuff's great. I really like it. And what I do is, once I get this really tightened down, hand tighten it, tighten the pieces as needed. You really don't have to force much on these parts. If you use a good sealant and good tape, you're going to have a really good seal by just giving it a good crank down. And then after that, what I do is actually just come back with my towel, and I just clean up around that part. It's not necessary, but what it does is it just makes a really nice, clean, quality looking job. If you kind of have ever looked at previous job someone's done, and there's just, it's the same thing with soldering a pipe, and there's solder all over the place. It just doesn't look professional. You know, it kind of brings into question the quality of the person's work in general. So, you know, for the couple minutes it takes to go wipe this off, clean up all your parts, it really makes it look nice. And then that way down the line, if you do have a leak, it's a lot easier sometimes to spot exactly where that leak is. If this stuff's gooped up all around here, you know, a leak could be over here, but it's making its way through and leaking back here. I mean, a leak is a leak. You might have to replace it anyway, but it just makes for a real nice clean job if you do it right. All right, so now that we've assembled this and we've tightened everything down, just what we do is, like I said, I come back here with just a paper towel and I clean up these areas with the sealant that sort of squeezed itself out of here. And you can see that right after wiping this down, how much cleaner that looks. You're exposing some of the threads that weren't needed, and it really makes a big difference. So, you know, this one compared to this one that's sort of looking pretty sloppy here, I mean, that right there just makes a difference. Does it make the pipe seal any different? No, but it sure makes for a more professional looking job, which in the end is what matters.